Trying to decide whether you should take a role as a data engineer, a data scientist, or a data analyst? Well, hold on there, because in today's episode, I am going to share with you all of the insider information about what it takes to do well in each of those roles and some really important things you should consider about yourself before making that decision. For the very best data leadership and business building advice, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when a new episode drops each week. Hi, I'm Lillian Pierson, and I am so grateful to say that through my partnerships with LinkedIn Learning and Wiley, I've been able to help educate well over 1 million data professionals on AI. I'm also CEO of Data-Mania since 2012, and our mission is to help data professionals transform into world-class data leaders and entrepreneurs. Okay. First, let's talk about what are the requirements to become a data engineer. First of all, you'll want to have a STEM degree if you want to become a data engineer. So a bachelor's degree will suffice, but you'll need something in science, technology, engineering, or math. And data engineers generally program in Java, C++, Scala, and then they need to also know Python and SQL. They should have experience building systems in a distributed computing environment, meaning you'll want to experience with using Hadoop, Hive, Spark, NoSQL, MySQL, and whatnot. And you'll also want to have data architecture experience. Now, you don't need to be necessarily a data architect, but you should have some experience doing data architecture level tasks. In terms of data science, there's a whole different set of requirements for that. So of course, you'll still need to have the STEM degree, but not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to have a PhD or master's. In fact, 12% of data scientists only have their bachelor's degree. According to Katie Nuggets, 32% of data scientists have degrees in math or statistics, whereas 19% of them have computer science degrees, and then lastly, 16% of those people have engineering degrees. So when I say degree, I of course mean university level degree, bachelor's and upwards. In terms of languages, they need to have, you need to have skills in both Python and R, as well as SQL at least. With respect to experience, you need experience with all sorts of analytical methodologies. You'll need to know how to do data mining, use random forest, text mining, network analysis, all of that good stuff. And you'll also need to be really well experienced with all of the various machine learning algorithms, which includes deep learning. So you really want to get in there and start learning how to do neural networks, as well as a classical classification, clustering, SVD, like all the good stuff, you know? And then you'll need to have a very solid competency in statistics if you don't have a degree in that, as well as experience it with distributed computing environments, because most of your machine learning models will be brought into production in a distributed computing environment, so you need to know how to work in that setting. You also want to have great communication skills, which includes data storytelling as well as verbal and presentation skills. So you're not only expected to be able to uncover and deliver accurate predictive insights from data, but you also need to be able to communicate what those insights mean to the actual business. So that's the gist of what a data scientist must know how to do. In terms of data analysts really would do well to have a STEM degree as well. I don't know if you can get a job as a data analyst without a STEM degree, but a data analyst, how it's kind of morphed now, a lot of people that may be considered data analysts now were definitely considered data scientists back, say, 5 years ago, because the bar keeps getting raised in terms of what qualifies as data science. So you'll need R, Python, SQL. You also need advanced statistical knowledge and expertise. And you'll also, with a data analyst position, you'll want to have consulting skills. So it's kind of like data scientist minors. I would say like a data analyst is almost the same level of a junior data scientist. So you're just kind of doing the precursor work. You're doing a lot of data analysis, which is basically a big part of what data science is. So you want to have strong analytical capabilities, reporting acumen, of course, abilities to manage multiple priorities, as well as rock solid communication skills, and this sort of thing. So those are the differences in responsibilities between a data engineer, a data scientist, and a data analyst. Actually, I would love to hear from you now. Based on what I just described to you, tell me in the comments below, where do you think you fall within the spectrum of those three? Now, let's talk about what each of these types of professionals does. So a data engineer actually builds and maintains data pipelines. Actually, it's so very simple to understand the difference between data science and data engineering by thinking of a water system. So you get tap water running to your house, it's been cleaned, it comes from the plant, everything is taken care of, right? So it comes from the plant in pipes. And engineers actually designed that conveyance system. They sized the pipes. They built the treatment facility to get the water prepared for drinking. All of the stuff that basically gets the water to the end consumer and helps the conveyance of water through a system can be pretty much equated with data engineering, where a data engineer builds the pipelines, builds the repositories, the storage applications and containers, and builds everything that's required to both store the data and then move the data, consume the data, everything that's needed to actually use the data. Now, data scientists are the consumers of the data. So they take that data and they use it to make predictions. They also use it to create dashboards and all sorts of analytics platforms to help support the business in a wide variety of ways. But the whole thing here is that data scientists consume the data. Data engineers build the systems and maintain the systems that get the data to the data scientists, as well as the data analysts. So the data analysts also are consumers of that data, but they are using it more like ad hoc. So to answer questions for the business, to get in there and clean things up, to find ad hoc insights, but they're not actually like building decision engines for predictive applications and stuff like that. So more sophisticated type model building, that is the realm of the data scientist, whereas data analysts are more in there doing ad hoc analysis, just figuring out what the data says to get the information to decision makers across the organization. That's a data analyst. Data analysts, of course, write SQL queries and create data visualizations, maybe some dashboards of this sort of thing, but it's generally always a lot simpler type analytical work than the work that a data scientist would be doing. Now, if you've made it to this point and you find yourself leaning more towards the data scientist type of role, then you would probably love a recent video I just did on the data science career path and all of the killer opportunities that are available upon it. So I will leave a link to that video in the description below for you to check out when you get a chance. Okay, so moving on to the juicy details about how much each of these types of professionals make. I've got to tell you, there is a lot of hype there's a lot of BS on the internet about how much data professionals are really making, because I just went and did the compensation research to produce this video. So actually, data engineers in the United States on average are making between $60,000 and $75,000. So that's a pretty common average salary for a knowledge worker in the United States. It's nothing to get all that excited about. Data scientists, on the other hand, they're averaging out at around $75,000 to $120,000 per year, but that generally you go up in rate according to, of course, your experience. So you'll be tending towards more the $120,000 side if you've got 3 to 5 years experience. Now, data analyst, which is kind of an entry-level position within the whole realm of things, that's actually at $65,000 to $75,000, which is great, because how could that not be great for an entry-level job? And just know that these averages I've given you are just that, averages. So there's tons of room to grow and evolve and to hit the multiple 6-figure mark in terms of annual compensation as a data professional. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, but let's discuss personality, because and I'm talking your personality, and this is very important. It probably seems odd to you for me to be discussing your personality in a topic and in a video that's talking about data engineering and data science. But here is the deal. You can get all of the data science skills you want, all of the data engineering skills you want, but when the rubber hits the road and it's time for you to work in that capacity, if that role is not compatible with your personality type, it does not matter how much money they throw at you, you're not going to be happy doing that. And if you're not happy doing that work, you're not going to thrive as a professional, and you're not going to be serving in your highest capacity as a human being, right? So you want to make sure that the work you do on a daily basis is actually not only in support of the company you work for and its business vision, but it's in the support of your constitutional makeup, your personality, your mission in life, what you're really passionate about, right? And so just going after these roles because you have tech skills and there's good paying jobs is maybe a little short-sighted in the end. I only know that because I did that. So back in 2012, I got data science skills and got all geared up to be a data scientist. And then when I was all skilled up and ready to go, I realized that I don't want to do data implementation for the rest of my life. It's not my calling, right? That doesn't mean that those skills and that expertise is wasted, though. So there's tons and tons of other opportunities for you to create tremendous value out of data expertise besides actually building building the solutions, right? So I wanted to just explain that and let you know, if you're more of a people person and better as a leader, then you may want to bypass the decade of working as a data scientist and go straight for a leadership position and use your skills, your expertise in that capacity. So for me, when the rubber hit the road, I had the opportunity to take a second interview for a data implementation job with Facebook, or move to Thailand and bootstrap my business. And I actually chose the latter, and I lived off of $600 per month while I built Data-Mania from almost scratch. So this business has now blossomed into a multiple six-figure earner, but it's not based on implementation work that I do on a daily basis. And so I just wanted to encourage you that there are many, many different ways to create quote unquote business value from your data expertise. You don't necessarily need to be a data analyst, a data scientist, or a data engineer. So the thing is, thinking in terms of do I become a data scientist or a data analyst is limited thinking. There are way, 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 way more opportunities available to you in the data field beyond, data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer. And the good news is you can take a much more direct path to the top once you understand how to leverage your skill sets and your talents, your personality, and your passions in order to serve in a capacity where you thrive. That's why I'm encouraging you to take the Data Superhero Quiz. It's a super fun 45-second quiz that's all about you, your skill sets, and your personality, and how that aligns with the very best career path for you. It's based on all sorts of current market research in terms of data jobs, and you're gonna get personalized results. So if you'd like to take the quiz, I'll link to it in the description below. Oh, and if you like this video, be sure to show it some love by giving it a thumbs up, and leave a comment below telling me which of these 3 roles sounds like the very best for you. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you'll be the first to know when the next episode drops.